Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a technique that totally changed the game in genetics. It solved a massive problem. How in the world do you study something that's practically invisible? Well, get ready because we're diving into the process that works just like a photocopier, but for DNA.
All right, let's just jump right in with a scenario you've seen a million times in movies and TV shows, right? A detective finds a single strand of hair or a tiny drop of blood at a crime scene. How is it even possible for scientists to get enough information from something that small to actually identify someone?
Well, here's the core of the challenge. To do any kind of meaningful DNA analysis, scientists need about 1 microgram of the stuff. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but in the microscopic world of cells and molecules, getting that much is a huge, huge deal. To give you some perspective, that 1 microgram of DNA is what you'd get from about 10,000 human cells. A tiny sample from a crime scene, it often has way, way less than that. So for a long time, these samples were basically useless. You see the problem. But then, an absolutely brilliant solution came along, thanks to a scientist named Kary Mullis. It's called the polymerase chain reaction, or just PCR for short. And honestly, the best way to think about it is exactly like a molecular photocopier. It takes one tiny scrap of DNA and just starts hitting copy. So what is PCR, really? At its heart, it's a way to amplify it, and by that I mean make millions or even billions of copies of a very specific piece of DNA, all starting from a sample that's incredibly small. It's so clever because it basically hijacks a natural process our cells do every day and puts it inside a test tube. And to really get how this works, we need to know two key terms. First is in vivo, which just means something happening inside a living thing. Like how your body naturally copies your DNA. The other is in vitro, which means it's happening outside the body, in a lab. PCR is a classic in vitro process. We're recreating life's machinery in a tube. So how do you do it? Well, you start by mixing up a little cocktail, a reaction mixture. You take your tiny DNA sample, you add in a bunch of free nucleotides. Those are the A's, T's, C's, and G's, the building blocks of DNA. Then you add things called primers, which are kind of like little signposts that say, copy here. And finally, the most important ingredient, a special enzyme that does all the building. So you have all your ingredients mixed together. Now what? Well, the entire secret to this whole thing is temperature. The mixture goes through this very precise cycle of heating up and cooling down, and each temperature change triggers the next step in making our DNA copies. First up, we crank the heat way up to a sizzling 95 degrees Celsius. That's almost boiling. This intense heat breaks the bonds holding the two strands of DNA together, causing the double helix to unwind and separate into two single strands. Okay, but hold on. If you're thinking ahead, you might be asking a really good question right now. At 95 degrees, the normal enzyme that copies DNA in our own bodies would be completely fried. It would just fall apart. So how does anything get copied in this heat? And this is the truly genius part of the whole technique. The answer is, we don't use a human enzyme. We use one from a very special bacterium called Thermophilus aquaticus, which actually lives and thrives in boiling hot springs. Its enzyme, called Taq polymerase, loves the heat. It can handle 95 degrees no problem, which makes it the perfect little construction worker for this job. Now, before we get to the next step, let's quickly lock in a key term, annealing. It sounds fancy, but all it means is that a short little piece of DNA, our primer, finds its matching spot on a long single strand of DNA and just sticks to it. That's it. So with that in mind, for step 2, we cool the whole mixture down to somewhere between 50 and 65 degrees. And this cooler temperature is perfect for those little signposts, the primers, to do their job. They find their target on each of the single DNA strands and anneal, or bind, right on, flagging the exact starting point for copying. And for the final step of the cycle, we raise the temperature again, this time settling at 72 degrees Celsius. Why 72? Because that is the absolute perfect, optimal temperature for our hero enzyme, Taq polymerase, to get to work. And this is where the copying actually happens. The Taq polymerase enzyme latches on right where the primer is and starts zipping down the single DNA strand. As it goes, it grabs those free-floating A's, T's, C's, and G's from the mixture and adds them to build a brand new, perfectly matching second strand. And just like that, our two single strands are back to being two complete, identical DNA molecules. So think about it. After one full cycle of heating and cooling, we've gone from one piece of DNA to two. That's cool, but the real magic of PCR is that it's a chain reaction. We just do that whole cycle again, and again, and again.
This is where it gets really powerful. After that first cycle, we have 2 copies. Run the cycle again, and those 2 copies become 4. Run it a third time, and the 4 become 8. You see the pattern here, right? It's exponential growth. The amount of DNA doubles every single cycle.
And this process is unbelievably fast. By repeating this 3-step cycle just about 30 times, which only takes a couple of hours in a special machine, we can generate over 1 billion copies of our DNA, all from that one single molecule we started with. It's just incredible. So, 1 billion copies is a mind-boggling number. But what does that actually mean for the problem we started with, the one at the crime scene? Let's bring it all back together. And here it is, plain and simple. We started with a problem, a DNA sample that was way too small to be of any use. The solution? PCR takes that tiny, invisible sample and amplifies it into billions of copies, giving scientists more than enough material for things like DNA profiling, paternity tests, you name it. The problem is just gone. And that really brings us to the big picture here. PCR did more than just solve crimes. It blew the doors open for entire fields of science. It's essential for modern medicine, for diagnosing diseases, even for tracing our ancestry back thousands of years. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. Now that we can easily copy and read any DNA sequence, what does that mean for our future? For medicine? For who we are? And maybe even for our privacy? That's something worth considering.